Hi, I'm Joshua Finn with J&H Aerospace. Today we're going to build the mini Windlance. So this is the little brother to our big D-engine canard boost glider. Very easy to build, and if you're familiar with our product line, you'll recognize that this is basically the Aletta R turned around backwards. So we've moved the wing back to where your stab would ordinarily go, and vice versa. So this is very easy to trim out. Let's get started by taking inventory of all the parts that are in your kit. Slide this all out. And watch out for things that come rolling out. So inside your kit you will have full-size drawings for all the parts. To get this to fit on an 8.5 by 11, we clipped the wingtip off. So you'll have your BT5 body tube, also nose cone, your streamer material, shock cords, a piece of Kevlar, your launch lug, hard 1/8 inch balsa fuselage, your fin and canard, your wings, and your clay ballast weight. So we'll clear things off here and get started. Let's start by cutting out our wings, and we will go through the finishing process for them. Now, once you split these in half, you'll notice there are these little notches. Make sure that the little pieces come out of the notches so they're clear. Now, there are a variety of ways you can finish these wings out. So, just like the Aletta R, you can carve in a nice airfoil, or you can just round off the edges. For this one, I went through and I sanded a real nice airfoil. There is one thing about that. The fuselage is set up for no airfoil in your wings. So if you do airfoil them, you'll have to kind of flex this down when you glue it in. And there's just no way around that. We can't, if we were to set it up for an airfoil, then those of you that don't have time, or they're using this for a class or whatever, would then not be able to get the fuselage to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to round these off. You could use a razor plane, come in through here and plane things down real nice. But instead, we're just going to go around. We're going to do this. These are not like the old Edmunds aerospace kits where if you try to sand in an airfoil you can damage the flight characteristics. These gliders are designed so that they will take everything you give them and they will turn it into performance. So if you're looking for the best performance out of your glider, take the time to sand a nice airfoil in it, because that will greatly improve its performance. The other thing is, if you decide, or if there's any chance in the future you would want to use this for 1/4A boost glider competition, you do need to take the time to sand the airfoils in really nicely, take out as much weight as possible, because the energy in those engines is very low, and you need to have everything you can get out of the glider, really just to get it up to altitude. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue on to the next wing here, and we'll come back after I've got it sanded and we can join the wings. So now that we've got these wings airfoiled out, you're going to sand in your bevel for your dihedral. Do this on both sides. And we'll be right back. So we have a dihedral gauge for our wings. This triangle over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to, if I can get some glue here, this is what happens when you have very little glue left in your glue bottle. Take these wings, carefully line them up, join them together, set our dihedral gauge here, and make sure everything's lined up correctly, and there we go. And we'll sand a flap here in the bottom of the wing, and we're good to go. So next thing we'll do, we'll go ahead and separate out our fuselage. And we'll give it a really basic sanding here. We'll try to. And now at this point, we can separate out our canard. And we're just going to round off the edges on this as well. If you decide to airfoil your wing, you need to airfoil the canard as well. And the reason for that is you want to ensure that the canard has at least as high of a coefficient of lift as your wing. And without going into a whole lot of details, the bottom line is that if the wing is airfoiled, the canard needs to be airfoiled. Otherwise, you can potentially run into some stability issues. And those would primarily be exhibited as glider with seemingly the correct CG, responds well to test glides and whatnot, goes up there and launches and just goes into a terminal dive. So what we're going to do is we're going to attempt here, anyway, there we go. Glue the canard to the top of the fuselage in its little slot, and then we verify that it is on straight. And now we'll be able to attach the wing. And the wing is fairly straightforward to line up. So what you're going to do is on this saddle area for the wing, from the front all the way to the back, you'll run CA along here. You want to make sure that the seam in the middle is lined up all the way, and then you can check from the front to make sure that the tilt is, that the canard fuselage is not tilted a whole lot relative to the wing. It's okay for it to be tilted to one side or the other. That'll actually give you a natural turn in the glide, but you want that to not be super noticeable. Now I've got just a little bit, so if you were to look real closely, you would see that this side's a little higher than this side relative to the wing. And that means, since the canard is tilted that way, it's going to lift slightly in that direction, which will give me a right turn in the glide. Next step is I cut out my vertical stab here, or my fin if you wish. And again, we're just going to go around, we're going to give this a nice sanding just to streamline it real well. Now, one of the things you'll notice when you've done this is if you try to fit the fin in place, it doesn't go in all the way. And so what we're going to do is we're going to bevel these little alignment stubs so that they fit into that slot. And the reason for that is, if you remember, you beveled your wings, and so that closes up that gap a little bit. Now we can go in here and we add glue from the front forward notch all the way back. You don't need any glue forward of that notch. We just want to make sure that we do stay centered. Fairly easy to do. And now our rudder is locked in place, and I put in enough glue that it already has a natural fillet in it. The next and final step on the glider itself is to cut out these nose side plates, and these are the locking keys for your rocket pod. There'll be a little burr that'll form right there on the back of these. Be careful in sanding these that you don't round them off or anything, because that's your locking area. And then simply make sure that it does indeed fit the fuselage side profile. It does. So I can come back now and put a little bit of glue on here. And I would actually recommend, I'm going to show you on the other side, I've built a lot of these so I can get away with the mistake that I just made. If you don't know where the glue ends, you'll get glue back here, and then the pod may not come loose from the glider. So what you want to do is know that this is the side the glue goes on, so we turn this over and we add the glue in here. And try not to get too much near the back here. And now we just drop this into place. And now it's all locked in. I can come up here and I can sand around a little bit. Sand it back into the profile of the rest of the fuselage so it all matches, looks nice. And then you can actually, on all these edges, you can round things off real nice. Get a nice streamlined look. Don't sand off too much around here because your part of your pylon locks in there, and that provides your proper alignment. Hang on a second and I will explain what I'm talking about. Oops. On our old pod here, or our example one, you can see that we have contact all the way out to here, and that provides our up and down locking. So you don't want to sand too much of that. Around here on the front, you can sand that all the way up to a sharp point if you like. Okay, so with that, the glider's done. Now we're going to build out the pod. So cut out the pod, the pylon, and we'll cut out these two remaining pieces, which are locking lugs. And so you take this funny profiled section back here, and that is where the locking lugs go in. So you've got a sharp point down here, you've got your rounded edge back here. So once again, I'm going to take this guy, I'm going to put some glue up here, and I'm going to just latch it into where it meets the profile so that it's then streamlined into that. Now, if you are looking to get absolute aerodynamic perfection, there are a couple of things you can do. These faces right here, where the pylon meets the glider, those must not be sanded, because you want that to provide a nice face. But everything else up in around here you can sand off. You can round the backs of these off a little bit, not too much. You can round off around here, and that just would get you that much more altitude. How important that is, I mean, on a half-A engine, this thing launches nice and straight, so you're not struggling for performance with this aircraft. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. And just to show you how it's done, I'll carve in a little bit here. And so at that point, you got a fairly streamlined shape. So you've got this bevel right here, you're rounded around here, beveled around the back, etc. And we still slide in, we lock, and we disengage freely. Now this one's fitting a little bit tight, so something I can do to eliminate, so I can just sand down a little bit along here. So I thin out my fuselage a little bit. Now I get a much better fit. So, the next thing to do, off camera I was reminded that I was sanding this one, wrong one. Alright, we still do have a little bit of a fitment issue right here, if you can tell. And so we're going to do the same thing on this one then. It's also not wanting to slide over that real well. There we go. So now we lock in real nice. Okay. You can carve a little bit of a V-notch in here to get a perfect fit. I'm not going to. What I will say is sand off a little bit of your nice glassine finish on there. And now I'll glue this in place. You could do the Estes tube in the doorway trick to get perfect alignment. I'm not going to. What I do is I sight to make sure that an edge is parallel to the side of the tube when I'm looking dead on like this. And slight misalignments are not a big deal on these. So again, we're coming closer into completion. Now there are a variety of ways to attach your shock cord. I'm going to show you the lazy man's way, poor man's way, whatever you want to call it. This is just what works for me. And this kind of basically negates all of that streamlining I did earlier. So take all that for what it's worth. You can't tell that we live in the country on a farm. Fun times. Alright, so what I did is I wrapped this shock cord around 2 times, and then just got this guy going in here. Now, these are nose cones from Balsa Machining Service, and sometimes they fit a little bit tight. So what I recommend you do is go around here and actually bevel off the base of the nose cone a little bit. And basically just work your way around. Try not to get the shot cord caught in it. And then verify that this slides in and out. So this is not super loose and not super tight. That's what you want. And now we're going to take the other end of our shot cord. We're going to thread it through. I'm going to attempt to thread it through the little hole here. Mine has just enough fraying. Just want to be quirky. There we go. So I use a little bit of CA to bind it together, and now it slides through. And basically I'm going to just knot this over a couple of times. And because I don't want it to come loose, put a little bit of CA in there, and we're good. We'll go ahead and take our streamer here and kind of twist this around. And now, somewhere out, maybe halfway down your shot cord, it's not super critical where, but I'll tie a knot in the shot cord. Slide the streamer through. And we tie a knot. And then we'll tie one more, once again, just to make sure it stays put so that you don't get disqualified in the middle of a contest if you fly these competitively. And now, take your streamer, and you can do the accordion fold type of deal. This just makes it come down that much slower. Streamer recovery brings the pod down very, very quickly, and as a result, it actually behooves you to slow it down some, and that just ensures that your person who is tracking this is able to see it on the way down and get a good line on where it goes down. Particularly useful if you are launching this on A engines, as this model gets going very, very fast on those. You don't want to lose visual on it. As you can tell, a little bit of tight fit in there and everything, just because there's a lot going in there. Alright, we have one last thing to do on this pod. Sand off the top. Take our launch lug, sand it. Very important you sand these because these are your traditional Estes style launch lugs, and that finish is kind of impervious to glue. So you want a good roughed up edge surface to glue with. And I've just mounted on the top. So lug on the top, pylon on the bottom, good to go. And now we have our full assembly. Your engine, rocket motor, is going to fit in here. You're going to use some tape to friction fit it in place. In fact, I'll show you on this old one. Or maybe I won't. Hope this one didn't get wet. Anyway, I can't get that. What you do if you get it stuck is slide your launch rod up through there. You can punch the rocket motor out, but I don't have the Actually, I do have something, and I think it's long enough. So what you do, or not, there we go. So you use some masking tape wrapped around the engine, and that just gives you a good tight fit in there. And don't leave it in there over long periods, because then the adhesive tends to stick into the tube. As far as balance information on these, I balanced mine. Let's see, I don't know if I can get this to balance on our glider balancer, because canards are weird like this. There we go. So that's about 1/2 inch in front of the wing root leading edge. I'd use just a little bit of clay to get that, and that one's actually probably a tiny bit nose heavy even. This one came out, because I didn't sand the wing down as much, it came out further aft. And so I'm going to, off camera here, I'm just going to give this a test glide. Okay, that's too far aft. So in that case, break out your clay here. We'll stick some on the front here. You do need some CA to make your clay stick in place. This raw balsa does not really bond to modeling clay. So that's got us about the same CG location as before, as the other one, and alright, what I can tell you is that flew absolutely perfectly. We'll go out and we'll have some fun with that one later. Anyway, one thing also I'll mention is a lot of people tell you not to paint gliders. You can paint them. This one's painted. The important thing is I can still see the grain of the wood through the paint, and that means that I have not put too much on. You want just enough that you've got your color, and that's it. And then afterwards come back and give it a light sanding to take any fuzz off of, or roughness off of the paint, and you're good to go. You can use markers if you wish. I actually kind of like to give them paint. If you're not going to fly it in 1/4 A competition, so weight's not as critical. So for 1/2 A's and A's, this aircraft has plenty of performance. 1/4 A's, you have to save weight everywhere you can. So if you're not going to fly 1/4 A's, get out a can of Minwax varnish, take a piece of paper towel and dip it in there and just rub a real thin coat of that all over your glider, and that'll give you a real nice finish. You can sand it off, it gives you this real smooth finish, and then you can squirt a little bit of color on there, and now you have a waterproof, or mostly waterproof aircraft that won't warp or anything. If you're flying on 1/2 A and A engines again, you'll actually get an increase in launch altitude because it'll just be that smoother of an airframe. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you like this aircraft enough to order it. Any questions, comments, comment section below, and we'll see you later.